We are live.
Oh, great.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode 2 of Art My Medicine. And today I'm having a wonderful guest, Caroline, who will be chatting with me about all things creative. We are going to introduce each other and then dive in. So my name is Dorota. I'm an artist, reborn artist. I turned into art after a massive mental health breakdown, and I didn't look back since. I started to pour art like crazy, and I started to see how it helps my mental health and how it helps others. And this is how it became to be called my medicine, because it not only helps me, but I noticed that there are other creatives who do similar things and help others. And also that art, not necessarily making art, but surrounding yourself by creative people and creative outcomes has amazing influence on your health. So today I have Caroline. And do tell us, Caroline, who you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline Murphy-Bennis, and I have a few different titles or things that I do in the world, I suppose. And, I suppose everything springs from creativity. I absolutely am totally in love with creativity and just expression and in all forms. So I suppose I'm from a little village called Rathmuir, which is underneath the Blackstairs Mountains, and I suppose I left there when I was 16 and I traveled the world. But I've done lots of different things. I'm a graphic designer by profession, and I'm an author, I'm a poet, and I'm an entrepreneur just lately because I've started my own new design company called Flourish by Design, which hopes to bring those two elements of creativity in design and wellness and mental health together, and to try and to bring that understanding to the world that we are all fundamentally creative beings, and that the only thing that blocks that is those kind of traumas and those difficulties that we need support with, and that we can. And then I have a panel of 6 people that look after the kind of wellness side, to support people in all different aspects of their life, whether they're, their relational problems, or, whether they just want coaching to try to push themselves to a new level of leadership, So going forward, it's only starting off, so flourishbydesign.co. We're hoping to, and maybe Dorota, we'd love to get you involved as well, maybe doing some workshops on art theory and stuff. So it's really just going to be a spring of lots of different ways of helping people cope with their mental health issues, their well-being on all different levels, their relationships. The relationship with themselves is the real focus, and that's where I come into the true you. I want to get to the true person, and all of that comes through my writing, and it comes through the business, and it's the true identity, because I've worked in design for 25 years in creating brands and creating kind of false identities, to say. To get to the true identity. So when we get to the true identity of a person, and that is a kind of a healing process, then they become like a spring in the world for creativity and for good, and for becoming problem solvers to enrich and protect our planet. So that's my aim and my focus.
Wow.
And so
you are a woman of Renaissance. But it does resonate with me very much, because I was told at some point in my therapy, because I was very spooked by my art. I was thinking, like, how and why suddenly I am so able to express on the paper things that are in my head. I never thought I am, having those skills. I was perceived as a gifted child when I was young. I could draw, better than average, but I was not allowed in an art school. So as a rebel, natural rebel.
Because we're all rebels. Warriors have to be rebels.
Yeah. So I rebelled against it, and I said, if I can't get educated in it, then I'm not doing it because I'm not good enough. So for years and years and years, I was suppressing my creative urges, and pushing them deeply, because there was always something more important, providing bread on the table, being single mom, fighting the system and whatsoever. And my therapist, when I said, like, why is it happening, why I am suddenly so able, and she said, you know what, it's not that you are suddenly able, you just opened up to your inner self, to your urges. And now when you gave it a channel to come out, it's just, all those suppressed years need to come out. So probably that is why you are so prolific.
That's good.
So this really
That's what
resonates,
happened.
yeah,
That's
with your
the
theory of true self.
But that's who you are in your core. We're all creative beings. We're all, full of imagination. And that's what we talked about, which is really interesting with the eye, like in the Rainbow Warrior, because actually, Dorota, last week, it was interesting when I know we became friendly through the book, right?
Yes.
And, that concept, and I'd love to know why, after a little while, maybe you can explain what actually drew you to the story. But it was interesting last week when you did the introductory talk, you had a painting of an eye behind you.
Yes.
And when I was speaking, I was looking and going, that's a really interesting painting behind her. It's like an eye. And then as you spoke, you talked about that was one picture that actually kind of broke you out of that.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And I thought it was the same for me. This was like when I had this kind of, we'll say, a spiritual awakening as such, because I was creatively awoken, but I woke to a kind of a deeper sense of myself. So I went kind of into a truer and essence, kind of, even though I was working in the world, in the corporate world, I was working kind of, I suppose, to fit into kind of conventional, I suppose, branding kind of, when we get briefs from companies, it's always kind of about money and it's about how to make a profit. And then I moved into more kind of working with the environment and mental health and well-being and with the government agencies, which was much more aligned with me. But then I went into lecturing and started lecturing universal design principles. And then I kind of woke up to this universal principles. And I went back to nature and I went into a retreat, which lasted around kind of 4 years, where I went into, well, I was working and everything at the same time, but I started to kind of really deepen my understanding of myself and humanity, and back down to, I wanted to really kind of, as if like it was an artistic project as such, like if you were to... Yeah, if you were to want to dive down into what the truth of a human being is. And that was like the question I was kind of asking myself, like, what do we really need? Do we need all this noise and everything that's going on, or what do we actually need? So we renovated a cottage in the west of Ireland. And through that process of renovation, I was actually renovating myself. I was actually renovating my own psyche. And the closer I got back to simplicity and back to nature and back to the really core of who I was, the richer I became. And I became kind of freer and became much more free in my understanding of life. And it was like as if I was becoming kind of more of the force of life itself within me. And it was unlocked something in me. And then the writing came and the speaking came and all the different, even more talents that I hadn't understood that I had. Maybe I had suppressed. I was told I was very shy as a child and I didn't have a voice as such. Even my voice was always in my design, in my art, but my actual speaking voice, I didn't have the confidence. So that was unlocked. Like a lot of things, like you're saying, it's like as if, to me, it's, in one of my poems I have, it's called The Passage Grave. And it's like as if our psyche, it's like as if in the Newgrange, it's an ancient Celtic tomb, spiritual tomb. It's one of the most ancient in the world. It's before Egyptian times, and I felt, that it was like as if we were buried underneath this, and it's actually, it's uncovering ourselves through the passage of kind of self-development and self-awakening that we can come into our own truth. And in that poem, eventually we all come together and we push down the last big stone off our consciousness, and it becomes, we meet the sun, and it's just, this is a unified consciousness. So this is what the work is that we're trying to do. It's trying to uncover all the traumatic, subconscious, patterns that are actually ruling us, and that the liberation is, and to free the freedom, the Declare Republic in the poetry book that I have is to free ourselves from that. And it takes a lot of, work, and it takes a lot of community. It takes commitment, and it takes, support, and a certain type of kind of holistic support to do that. But I think the more that people kind of invest in trying to uncover that in other people, it's going to be like a tsunami that kind of really starts to take fire, like and really affect culture on a massive scale. So I think, like, programs like this, and community that are outside of even government, the power to the people really, has a massive effect. And I think creativity in that is huge, because you yourself have really sprung into the world with fabulous books, and it's given a language to people who, like myself, didn't have that. It's hard to explain when you can't express yourself, can't express your emotions. There's something blocking it, and then when somebody else can kind of verbalize it, or they can put it into a painting, like it's a healing for somebody else until they find their voice, and they will find it eventually, but it's just like the art and your expression of art and your own journey is just, it's a healing force in the world, So I think creativity is where it's at. And also that's where we're going in education as well. We need to change it around.
Indeed. Well, creativity is contagious.
Yeah.
Somebody famous said, and it's true, when we surround ourselves with people who are creative, we become creative. And it doesn't need to be in any, kind of manual artistic venue like painting or sculpture. It can be by solving problems a bit differently, because you will start to think outside the box, because you will open up these wires in your brain that will connect you to thinking differently. We have a question. Hello, everyone, by the way. We are so engrossed in chatting to each other that I forgot to say hello to everyone. There is a request from Kerry asking if you could read the poem you mentioned.
Oh, yes. Okay. It's a longish poem, but I would definitely read it for you if you like, if that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a little long. I'll show you. Well, Declare Republic is the poetry book, and Passage Grave is, and I have a picture here. I kind of have coupled it with lots of different pictures of nature throughout the book. Oh, can't you see it? And they were actually taken from different people, sent them in to me. It was kind of a co-created piece, and so I'll read it to you if you like.
Yes, please.
Okay. It's called Passage Grave. Clawing desperately with hands and nails, edging our way through. The earth is damp and cold on our skin. Darkness prevails. It seeps deep within our bones. The powdery fungus fills our lungs. Coughing, choking, aching, we battle on, blind. Shrews nosing our way through darkened tunnels until the earth crumbles, dry and dusty. A breakthrough, an opening into darkness, a chamber of hope. We enter an unknown realm, ancient, yet new. Silence consumes us. The massive stones encasing our chamber hold a space for us to hear our next footsteps, whispering from where we already know. This way. Feeling that presence, we follow down the passageway, stooped low and with mindful steps, we enter to the entrance place. The way is blocked, they call out. We can't get through. Weakened by our journey, we fall to our knees. Hopes crushed. Silently we sit. Listen, say those who can hear. Trust. Surrender your will. Slowly we stand to mountain pose. Then bending, we place our hands outlined on stones. One from each tribe, all shades and tones. An image of unity to behold. The power enters our vessels, not of this earth. The embodiment of universal will, a higher purpose. We begin to push the immense weight of millenniums, giving every drop of heart and soul, until finally, movement, it collapses to a rebirth. We stand in awe, illuminated with wonder. The warmth of the loving sun floods our senses and lifts our hearts into exaltation. The rays pierce our eyes, penetrating straight past us, down the passageway, engulfing the inner chamber, seeping through every tunnel, reaching at last to the core of the earth. Life has lifted us into a new earth from deep within our passage grave.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's beautiful. And yeah, it is actually,
It's dirty.
yeah, digging, up to get out of everything that covered our true self due to conditioning, due to social pressures, due to matrix we are living in. Yeah, it's beautiful. And there is a question from Adam. We have noticed in the education, creative arts have definitely been reduced. How do you think we can bring arts back into the world of kids of today?
Yeah, well, I think that's it's a project that I'm really interested in at the moment, and I'm talking with another friend of mine, who's she's a Reiki master as well, and she's interested in she's got a children's book that she wants to redesign, me to help her redesign, and she's lots of different ideas as well. And I think it's like that, a coming together of maybe, I think trying to get children to, really tune into their own intuition, because it's not for us to educate children. Children come into the world with true intelligence. They are the ones with the answers to the problems that we have around us. We need to support them, and we need to really listen to what they have, what they're bringing, and it's to bring out all of their talents and in their, support them in the structure of school, but actually to flourish them and to really blossom them into their own, their own kind of creative force that really needs to to happen, because what we're doing in our 40s is trying to undo a lot of that conditioning, and we're trying to get back to where we are true selves again. But if the education system was kind of built around kind of the philosophy of knowing that children are creative, and to kind of, I think, giving them more freedom to play, giving them more time in nature, and kind of giving them, and then kind of teaching from that place, I think is probably is a better model, so that to have them playing outside, because when we're playing outside, we're playing in nature, we're playing with science, we're playing with mathematics, we're playing with, life is, mathematics, science, it's art, it's physics in motion,
Yeah.
and then when we come back into the classroom to talk about that, but in context of life rather than it being separate.
Exactly. Yeah, the context. This is what is missing, is the context. And also, I have recently listened to a wonderful podcast. I forgot the name, of course. I'm very, very bad with names. But this gentleman wrote a book, Art Before Breakfast, and many other books. And he was trying to say that we should stop calling it arts in schools, that we should have a subject that is called creativity, because art scares children. There are children who don't feel like painting, and why do we need to even paint or take inspiration from whatever painting? Why we are just not embedding creativity as a holistic approach to all possible subjects, and provide the opportunity for children to dip in and out to different creative streams for them to find themselves in it.
Exactly.
It's awful to be graded of how well you can, I don't know, express impressionist views in your painting. This is scary. Why just not providing the inspiration and telling them, just try to look at something in different way now and create it in whatever means, music, rhyme, hip hop, whatever, painting, sculpture, whatever it is. But we are subjecting children to very encyclopedic way of education, and art is part of it. There are grades, for instance, my eldest son, his creative drive was killed by A-levels and GCSE. Because he said, I have nothing to say there. I must do it according to this, and that, and I don't like it. So let's stop killing children's creativity, and let's change the vocabulary. And on that topic, vocabulary, Karen asked, I read yesterday that to improve our vocabulary helps with mental illness, as it helps us to articulate our emotions, which is a great release. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that too. I suppose it's difficult as well, though, because I think when you grow up in, we all have different dialects wherever we grow up. We're not our voice, we're not our accents, we're not our, nationalities. So it's kind of sometimes hard for people to express themselves when they're in an environment that has a certain language. Like language and words are creative in themselves, so like everything comes from a thought. So your thought becomes a word, becomes an action in the world, has an energetic field itself, and it can be kind of life-giving or it can be destructive. So words are very important, and definitely I suppose for children, it's more important for the adults around them to be more conscious of the words that they use around them, because they're being mirrored to them. So I think like that, it's an uphill battle for a child to try and be expressive. It shouldn't be. It's our responsibility to be protective of the children. Children's protection. So it's the words and how they're spoken to and how they're talked to in schools is really important, as well as at home. So it's becoming teachers and parents becoming conscious of that, and when they're in an environment when they feel safe to express themselves, there won't be a problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's also about, when we are on vocabulary, it's about not denying children's emotions, isn't it? It's like this really, sometimes I am held by my partner not to react because the precautions could be awful. But when I see a mother or father, screaming at their child, stop crying, nothing happened after this, that they fell, it's like, I want to shout, what are you saying? Something did happen. They are hurting, acknowledge it. Even if they haven't listened to you, stop running and whatsoever. We are denying feelings. We are denying feelings and emotions from the day one, right? Yes. The baby is crying and we need to shush the baby, right? But this is form of communication. And this continues throughout our life. We are told, you shouldn't cry, you shouldn't say this, you shouldn't act like that. And what happens? We lose the ability even to recognize those emotions in ourselves. That is why we have mental health problems at some point, and we are then digging ourselves out of that ditch, to find our voice, to find what's wrong, what's driving me. So that's important. And you mentioned previously about something that is very close to my heart. You mentioned something about finding people, finding a tribe. And I used to say that this helped me enormously to find people who have similar experiences, who are driven by similar forces, because it lets me feel less alone. And for our mental health, because we are humans, we are designated, designed, I would say, to live in a herd, aren't we? We need people around. So finding people like-minded people is a crucial aspect of us being well. And you asked me before, and this leads me to how did I find that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a bizarre journey, really, because I was searching for people who were published by the particular publisher, just to, seek their opinion. And when I noticed you and your book, I was like drawn to that cover for the reason you mentioned, because my first ever image of color through the art therapy was that eye that was behind me during the last show. And it wasn't, I didn't try to create an eye, it just came out. And it has a symbolic meaning, doesn't it? Because I suddenly started to look within and finding my drive. And when I saw that and read, the description, the eye was like, oh my God, that's a sign. I need to have that book. And I absolutely fell in love. And my daughter, oh my God, I think I sent you a photograph of her being so mesmerized by it. She absolutely loves it. I would recommend that book for every youngster, but you know what? Not even youngster, because I love reading it too. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the Rainbow Warrior.
Yes, well, this was the first book that I published, and this is really close to my heart. And it's amazing, the story of you with the eye, because also it links into a little bit about what you talk about doodling, right? Which is really important, because I was only thinking about yesterday, thinking about the interview and about your video last week with the eye in the background, and it was kind of like came full circle. I understood then why you were attracted to the book, And I was thinking of how strange it was for me personally with this eye image that, I've always doodled eyes my whole life. I've always, if you're, talking on the phone to somebody or anything like that, or in school, we were talking about in school, I'd always doodle. I was fascinated by the human eye, always doodling it. And actually I realized only I was putting together, updating the website and doing my 25-year portfolio. And I realized that there was a festival of world cultures that I did that with my own eye was taking a photograph of. It was in banners all over Dunleary, and it was 21 years ago. And I was thinking to myself, oh my God, and now I have a book with the eye on it, and then, connected to you. So basically when I, as I said, when I kind of went into the inner kind of landscape, and I started kind of to, really trying to uncover what the truth of humanity was, then I suppose my consciousness had a different quality. And, the difficulty of that is how do you express that? And again, I was a designer, I wasn't a writer. I never saw myself as a writer. I never saw myself as kind of an illustrator, because you put yourself into a box. You don't see yourself as, and you're very much, it's a safety. Yeah. It's safety, you're in this little safe box, and you kind of think, oh, if I break out of that, what's going to happen, So one day I brought my kids down to a camp, and it was an Irish camp, and I just saw like the kind of anxiety with kids entering into this Irish camp, because it's all Irish, it's kind of in Ireland we go and we send kids on, we want them to learn Irish, their culture and stuff, and they send them to help them in school because they have to study Irish. It's not an option, and because it's not spoken language, it's difficult. So we would say a lot of kids send it into this camp, and it's all Irish speaking. So there was a lot of anxiety, and I was saying to myself, oh my God, I came home and I really, I just thought to myself, oh, geez, it really killed me. It really broke my heart to see these kids, dealing with anxiety and not being able to kind of go into the camp, or just struggling kind of so much with it. So I
Not perceiving it as an opportunity, but as a kind of punishment, isn't it?
Yeah, they just didn't want to, whatever way, it was fear. They were just filled with fear. So then I just sat in one motion, I just sat down and I just thought of the Rainbow Warrior. And I thought, this is the free part of us. This is the creative part of us, the part that can never be kind of touched by anything or anyone within our lives. We have the Rainbow Warrior in us. So I started to write down as if it was a child asking questions like, who is Rainbow Warrior? It's a being of pure energy. What does she look like? So it's the light within us, the creativity within us, the wonder, the imagination, the force of ourselves within us is the kind of the spirit is the Rainbow Warrior, but it's like it doesn't have a form. The form is within each of us, we'll say. And then within it I gave two superpowers. One was see through the eyes and how we see the world. So how we perceive the world has an effect on how our happiness, So when we look around and we see that, I say there's no good and bad, it's just love and fear. So it's just people acting out of, loving way or acting in a fearful way. And then to kind of, then they're giving them the breath, to connect to the breath. So when they connect to their breath, that's mindfulness practice. So if they're in an anxious moment, that they can connect in, they breathe in a rainbow and they breathe out a rainbow, and they breathe in a rainbow, and they keep doing it. And to do this a few times, they're blowing out. And in the picture then I have, they're blowing out a rainbow onto fear and they destroy it.
Oh, yeah.
So to teach them kind of visually as well as kind of with words, that it's, so once they kind of concentrate on their breath, then they can move past fear, because then they move into their potential, because it's what holds us all back, that sense of fear, and that moving out of our comfort zone, and we kind of feel it in our body as a kind of as a block, we'll say, to what we want to do, because the will wants to move on, and it wants to create, and it wants to it has its own trajectory, but it's it's the blockages that are the difficult, and when we feel that horrible kind of negative emotions, but we need to use those practices. So that's where it kind of came from. So I hoped that it was a kind of a universal book for every child and every adult as well, because like you say, within each of us we have our inner child, and that's actually an ancient Celtic symbol for eternal love, but it's actually it's like the child and the mother,
Yeah,
one. And it looks like a yoga posture, but it's Irish Celtic spirituality. But yeah, so I suppose I tried to tie a lot of different kind of symbolism into the book as well, and the tree of life, is a Celtic spiritual teaching as well, I suppose, in that we're, we need to be grounded in ourselves.
Yeah, speaking of which, I always wear.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one of it on today, but I wear it all the time as well. I have a few different ones. Yeah, the tree of life. Yeah, so it's like
your book is full of this symbolism, and I love how you so creatively embedded your culture, your beliefs. It's an amazing book for every child to be introduced to mindfulness and finding the strength within, finding this warrior, that it's normal to be subjected to fearful situations. We will meet plenty of them, unfortunately. Adulthood is not much easier, even more difficult, I would think, than childhood. And you need to really find that strength, and visualizing it as that colorful energy that you introduce in the book it's amazing, and children are really drawn to that book. Anybody that I have recommended that book absolutely love it. So you did really, really good job.
Okay, so
Sorry,
since then, actually, I didn't realize, I didn't understand about like Hinduism and, the chakras and all that when I was doing it. I was just doing it from my own kind of inspiration. And then afterwards, people would say to me that, it's a mindfulness book, and they talk about the chakras, and the different colors of the chakras are the colors of the rainbow as well. So it's kind of, and then as I did my research, I realized that Celtic spirituality and Hinduism and are very connected.
Yes,
There's the philosophy, which I thought, whoa, so it's a little bit different. The Celtic spirituality and mindfulness book.
Yeah. And then you produce a lovely workbook that children can, not only children, adults as well, can dive in and color in and just, play with the color and patterns, which we know that patterns are very calming for our brain. Our brain loves seeing patterns. So how did it came about?
Yeah, actually, I don't have a copy of that now with me, but at the moment, I designed. Then I wanted, like I talked about the retreat that I took and the inner landscape and the insights and the inspiration that I got during that time. And one of them was seeing the kind of the framework underneath the kind of matrix of reality, of like the Indian philosophy, they say Maya. So I saw the framework of existence, we say, and it's all patterns. So to take the understanding of that nature has universal principles and they are unchangeable and they can never be overwritten by kind of the human mind, we say, and that we need to that's what we would talk about, being in harmony with nature. It's not just a thought, it's actually a fact. So when we look into physics, and that's where we see that more easily, and we see it, we see the structural patterns of, say, a flower, or we see structural patterns of, a spiral. We see this is mathematics and physics at its core, but it's actually taken from nature. So all artists, writers, even poets, because it's rhythm, music, art, design, architecture, fashion design, everything is inspired from these principles of nature. And that's why when we go into nature as creative beings, we get inspired and we bring that back into the world, and we start to create from our higher kind of understanding. We take those principles and we create bridges and buildings and,
of course, yeah,
structures on larger scales, but we take the principles from nature. So I took that kind of philosophy and taking my lecturing knowledge as well, I suppose, and try to simplify it for children. So it's taking kind of design, geometry, and kind of bringing them together and trying to get children to kind of look around. There's 6 different patterns. I asked them to go into the world and see where they can see these patterns, and get them to start to, like that, breaking down the boundaries of, what's mathematics and physics and stuff and geometry. Really, it's the patterns that are in nature. So to go out into nature, to see them, and then to kind of jot them down, or to color in, or like even to doodle and stuff, and to come up with their own designs and their own kind of interpretation of that, So just making them aware of this, the patterns within nature, and the starting to connect with that on a, I suppose children are highly intelligent, they're highly creative, and they see things more clearly and they're more present to life than we are. So, if you give them a little bit of a nudge in that direction, I don't think you need to do the hard work of kind of trying to, force them to learn. It's a natural, you just want to ignite their love of learning. So I suppose I was trying to kind of break down that negative, I suppose, feeling around, I suppose people, a lot of kids feel that they're not good at maths. They don't feel they're good at a lot of things, because they haven't got top marks, but they do have a fantastic understanding that can be brought out through, like you say, art and, design and creativity, so it's just trying to break down those boundaries and those kind of ideas.
That's amazing, because it's there is a lot of research behind how the patterns and coloring and how it helps your mind to calm down, to de-stress, and be in the moment. Because well, I find that is when I doodle, and anytime when I do any artistic, painting or whatever, this is the only moment when I feel in control of my breath. My breathing slow down. It's deeper and it's calmer. I suck at meditation. I admit it. My brain chatters all the time in both languages, when I try to meditate or focus on breathing, I then either hold it or hyperventilate, So I am really, really not good at meditation, but I think that this what art gives me. It's my form of meditation, that I can really silence everything around and zoom in within that piece of paper or canvas and my thoughts and myself and my breathing. And many dinners were burned during that process. Many meetings were missed. But this is my form of meditation, definitely. Adam asked a very intriguing question. He's saying, how do you like this idea, the creative warrior and the rainbow warrior working together via the mental health warriors and help kids to show their creative side?
Oh, excellent. Yes. And this is what I call emergent design. Tell him, Adam, when two people that are like-minded come together and they start to, marry their ideas, what comes out is something new. So maybe,
Yeah, well, definitely we need to dwell on it. Yeah.
Yes. And we'll call to anybody who else is interested as well, because I know there's a lot of people interested in redesigning the education system for children,
Yes, and we need it. We really do need it. And the second part of his question is, how would you like to be part of the Mental Health Warriors team?
Oh, that's interesting. The Rainbow Warrior,
Yes, a Rainbow Warrior,
You can help in any way I can.
Well, this is why I thought about you as my first guest, because mental health warriors, and then your book Rainbow Warrior that I am so passionate about. I was thinking there is a connection, there is a sign, Yeah, and speaking of which, I decided that each of my guests will provide me with some inspiration for painting.
Oh,
so yes. And I have created a painting, which I will provide you a digital copy of it for free. But if anybody or yourself wants to purchase it, you are free to contact me, and 20% of any money, any fees, will be donated to Mental Health Warriors, because this is what I would like to say, that Mental Health Warriors is an initiative that is supported purely by donations. So it's very crucial for them to have little money to pay, subscriptions to the StreamYard and other stuff, and the little things that we never think about but cost money. So if you would like to consider donating, please follow the little text going at the bottom of this screen, and there is PayPal information there. So yes, I was thinking, because, artists struggle meeting ends, life is not easy. So I was thinking, how can I help the team of Mental Health Warriors? And I was thinking, you know what? I love being inspired by people, and a lot of my interactions inspire my paintings. So I was thinking, each time I have a guest, before we come on, I will think about them. I will try to gain their energy and will create a painting that is inspired purely by them and their story. And would you like to see it?
I'd love to see it. You've done it already. Okay.
So this is it.
Wow, amazing. That's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, so the background was playing with the colors of rainbow, and then that human emerged from it. And it was meant to be, because I didn't plan to do it on that particular piece of paper, but it just happened to be, it was born. I will send you the photo of just the background, how this person emerged.
Amazing. It's absolutely gorgeous. And is that, what's this behind her? I can't see it too clearly. Is it?
She has a weapon.
Brilliant. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, skiers.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Do you know why? Because where I come from, it's they're called the pikemen. They're the yeah. They rose up in the 1798 rebellion, and they're called the pikemen. They hold things like that.
Oh, wow.
They hold pikes, and we're known for that in that area because, before, well, it was kind of a Republican thing. So the Ireland was looking for its freedom, and they were the only village in the whole of Ireland that rose up against, it was supposed to be, the freedom fighters, we'll say, but then they were suppressed. But that's a symbol where I come from.
Oh my God, how spooky is that?
Yeah.
And you see what I'm talking about when I say that it spooks me sometimes. It's just, oh my God, unbelievable. Yes, I will send you the digital copy of it. And if anybody or yourself wants to purchase it, please contact me, and then 20% of the money will be donated to Mental Health Warriors.
Well, I'll definitely purchase it. I look forward to it. It'll be a present for myself, and it'll be great inspiration for me. I'll keep it beside me to keep me strong.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, lovely. So, to wrap it up, do you think that art is medicine?
Oh, absolutely. Expression is medicine. Yeah. So whatever way you express yourself, true to you. So whether it's art, whether it's cooking, whether it's baking, whether it's whatever, like you say, creativity and art is, it's a life force as such. And it's like, I was thinking this morning, actually, we think about it, the tree of life, and what does a tree give us? The tree gives us leaves, and then we can breathe from the leaves. And I said, what does art, where artists give? They give their art, and that's like the leaves in the world for us to breathe. It helps us breathe. Art is life-giving. It's like opening a window, into a very heavy kind of conscious, collective consciousness. It's like, so we need definitely art as medicine.
Yeah, definitely.
It's healing.
Yes, it is, isn't it? And it's like I said, that there is a research. I don't remember who conducted that research, but there were patients who were recovering from some, procedures and a kind of, long process hurting and whatsoever, who had room with something on the wall, like painting, an art piece, whatever, and those who didn't have any, just empty walls. And we know how hospitals look. Oh my God, it's so depressing. Why there is no connection still that those institutions that provide healing spaces because of recovery, because of people having certain illnesses, physical or mental, doesn't matter, why they are not nice and colorful and provide some art. And that research proved that the person who had something to put their eyes on, it was a kind of painting of nature, I think, healed much quicker and was in much better mental health state through the process. While those who didn't have any art around did not recover as well and were complaining about feeling down, being driven by the pain, and really not feeling very well. So there is a connection, right? That art, not only making it, but also being surrounded by it.
Absolutely.
And part of this art is nature, isn't it? Nature is the great artist. So surrounding ourselves by art in all forms is the trick here.
And diversity. We like life is diverse, in its nature, and it is meant to be that way. It's that's the beauty of life is complexity and diversity of. So when we look at that, we are fed by it, the different colors. And it's funny that you said that, Dorota, because you remember I told you in another interview, we did a kind of a magazine interview before, that my father was a psychiatric nurse. And I grew up, that's why I'm so attached to the mental health kind of, being an advocate for mental health, because even though I was very creative, my father was a psychiatric nurse who I grew up with my dad, helping people, saving people from suicide. Many times, many stories that I grew up since I was very small about all the mental health challenges and all the different patients that he used to tell me about, and that he used to help, and that he would talk about, it was a massive, huge hospital in our local town in Enniscorthy, and how it was painted grey. He hated grey because the whole place was painted grey. And he just thought, like you're saying, like it's the complete opposite of what you want when you're kind of not in the best place. And so color is a therapy in itself. Absolutely.
There is a whole psychology behind it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And color therapy is, definitely, there's studies done on it, and the effect that it has on our mind and mood, and everything we bring into ourselves, has an effect. We don't just bring food in, we bring words in, we bring images in, we bring, what we're watching on the television, what we're consuming, and what we're reading, who we're surrounding ourselves with. All of that we're bringing into ourselves. So we have to be very careful of that too, especially if we have mental health, delicate, imbalances and stuff that are just, we're kind of on a healing journey. We'll say everybody to some extent deals with some form. And I talk about breaking stigma. I really feel like it's not so much breaking stigma, it's coming out of denial. The denial that not every single person deals with anxiety or depression on a daily basis. There's no stigma as such, because that's just a denial of the truth. The truth is that if you're in the past, if you're not present, it means you're either in the past or you're in the future. If you're in the past, you're in depression. If you're worried about the future, you're in anxiety. So unless you're present each moment, you're going to be dealing with that, every single person. So, mental health issues are when there's an imbalance is weighed too much one way. But I always feel it's like it's on the playground, the swing swan.
Yeah, seesaw, exactly.
Seesaw. So people are on different levels, but the stigma is just a denial of the truth that everybody deals with it, and we have to be warriors, to constantly be minding ourselves and to be conscious of what we're taking in, conscious of walking, conscious of drinking enough water, conscious of self-care and minding ourselves. And there's an awful lot of people that are involved in this kind of push and movement towards helping people become more educated and changing this culture to kind of a healthy culture, and to break away from kind of the bindings that we have around kind of being tied into this kind of consumerism that isn't healthy for our health and well-being. So it's really just to say that it's not just the stigma is just denial of the truth. So definitely, like, I grew up with the understanding of all of that since I was very small, and it's only now, I think, coming to light, because people in Ireland and all over the world were kind of locked away for years. I know of people from my dad's days. One person had a breakdown, and this is one example, he was locked away for 30 years because he had and never died there. He died in the hospital.
That's shocking.
And nobody wanted to know him, nobody wanted to even acknowledge his existence. They didn't even know they had an uncle. This kind of way, there's people, this is the culture that we're trying to break away from, so it's just bringing light into those areas that have been forgotten or denied, So,
Yeah, and you also mentioned something very important, that we are very easily, convinced and open to, changing our diet and providing our bodies with nutrition that is good to us. There is the whole movement of healthy eating, right? And this is so easy, acceptable. But why don't we think about nutrition for our brains? That we need to be on diet for our brains. And mostly if we have mental health issues, that we need to push away the toxic aspect of life. It's just don't digest it, don't look at it, don't, the same you would do when you are on diet for the body, right? You will restrain from eating this or that. The same for our mind. Our mind needs diet as well, and sometimes detox, doesn't it?
Absolutely, a detox, and also, to flooding yourself with, even like, thank God now we have like beautiful, amazing YouTube channels like this. We have, podcasts. We can educate ourselves. We have the freedom to educate ourselves now. We don't have to kind of like, it's free education. Is such, that we don't even have to go to university. We can go and do an online course. So, we need to kind of, I think, flood ourselves with people who are kind of going to, improve our mental health. And, even if you don't have that around you, or in a work situation, or in a home situation, or a family situation that is toxic for you, that you create that kind of bubble around yourself until you're strong enough to kind of move out from that. I think you need to, it's like as if you're reprogramming your mind, because I suppose families also have patterns of behavior, and some are wonderful and some aren't so good, and when we become aware of that, we need to kind of protect ourselves from that in a way that when we're aware, we just don't want to replicate that into the next generation. So we're trying to
break the cycle. Yeah,
break the cycle, exactly. So I suppose it's there's a kind of an art to that, but I would definitely say to kind of try to more flood yourself with positive kind of ingest, positive kind of podcasts or music or art or things that are very kind of life affirming into your psyche, rather than taking in, okay, we need to definitely know what's happening and be aware of the news and stuff like that. But I would definitely put myself on a diet of that.
Yes, definitely. So firstly, just to sum up, find your inner rainbow warrior. It might be at the beginning a tiny creature, then feed it with the nutrition through your mindfulness to grow and to just spring to life when you're ready for you to live your life fully.
Yes, and you live your potential. That's it. And then we'll grab you and we'll put you to work.
Yeah. That's great. So just to remind, Adam asked me to remind that there is a live tomorrow at 11 a.m. UK. Princess Warrior, 8-year-old daughter of Adam, will be hosting her own Q&A with the fellow warriors. Please tune in tomorrow. So I would like to thank you, Caroline. I don't think that we exhausted the topic. I could speak to you for hours and hours and hours. So perhaps we will, schedule another time we can chat. But it was absolute pleasure, and thank you for, crossing paths with me, because I feel enriched by your being and by your creativity, and I'm sure that the audience will find it similar. So have a lovely day, everyone. And remember to follow Caroline on her social media. We will put links under the video, and also we will list your books so you can purchase them. Do support our creative warrior. Can I say our already? Yeah. Adam, we got her. So thank you so much, and please tune in to next Art My Medicine episode, which will be in 2 weeks' time, and advertisement will follow shortly. Bye, everyone.
Thanks very much. Bye. Thanks for having me on. Bye.